Okay, so we're recording. So if you would please state your name,
Maxine, Massey,
and would you please spell that?
capital M-A-X-I-N-E, capital M-A-S-S-E-Y.
Thank you. So Miss Massey, today we're going to talk about your life in Johnstown. So when were you born?
1934,
What month and day?
August 31st.
Were you born in Johnstown? Could you tell us where you were born?
I was born in Georgia, in the South.
How did you come to Johnstown?
My mother's sister and brother-in-law moved here first because I think my mother's brother-in-law worked at Fort Sandwich Hotel. So they ended up getting us to come to Georgetown and join them.
What were your parents' occupations when they lived in Johnstown?
I think my mom worked at it was like a peanut factory. It was a factory.
And what did your dad do?
My dad, I wasn't with my dad. My dad had passed away, I believe, when I was about 4 or 5 years old. So I don't remember my dad.
How about brothers or sisters? Do you have any brothers or sisters?
I have one brother who lives in Maryland. My sisters are both deceased now.
What schools did you attend here in Johnstown?
Carnema and Johnstown High.
Okay. Did you go to college?
No, I didn't.
Did you go to any trade school?
No, I
What was your first job?
didn't. Babysitting. You call it a job. I love babysitting when I was growing up. And I was still in school, but I would babysit during the summer.
A lot of people requested you as a babysitter.
Yes.
How many kids did you ever babysit at one time?
Just two.
Just two? So these were all neighborhood kids?
No, they weren't. They lived up on the hill, and I lived down in the valley.
Oh, how did you get up there?
By bus, sometime on the incline plane. I don't know if you heard of the incline plane. Yeah.
And how long did you babysit? Like, number of years?
Probably about 4 years. And I would stay in with them. I would only come home on the weekends.
So you were a live-in babysitter?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's very interesting.
It was. I had to cook for them and everything.
How did the families treat you who you babysat for?
They were really nice people. Yeah. I enjoyed it.
So after your babysitting career was over, then what did you do?
I ended up working at a ladies' clothing store called Brett's.
And where was that located?
It was downtown Johnstown.
On Main Street?
Uh-huh.
And how long did you work there?
Oh, probably about 4 years.
So when you're not working and when you weren't babysitting, what did you do for fun?
Well, as a kid, we'd had fun just playing games outside. But I don't think we might have had a TV, but I don't remember if we had a TV. I don't think we did at that time.
How about as a teenager and then a young woman? Did you socialize? Did you have a group of friends you hung out with?
Yeah, I did.
And tell me a little bit about them.
Well, we socialized at a little club or jump joint, whatever you would call it, called, oh gosh, I can't think of the name right now. But it was up on the hill in Prospect in Johnstown. That's where I met my husband. So, but I lived in Woodville, but this was up in Prospect, so we had to walk to get up there and walk back.
How old were you when you met your husband?
I was probably 15.
Oh, so tell us about the courtship.
It was fun. It was great. No, he was really a great person and really loving and everything. So we went to school together for a while. He was in 12th grade and I was in 11th, so we kind of hung out a lot together.
So how long after high school did you marry?
Right after I graduated. I think it was the next day.
Really?
Yeah.
And where did you live after you married?
Lived with my mom
For how long?
for probably about a year.
During that time, what was your husband doing for work?
He worked at a newspaper company called the Tribune Democrat.
And what did he do for them?
He, oh gosh, I Mostly he delivered papers, but he might have had something to do inside with the papers, but he would deliver the papers too.
Did he work long hours, or did he have a set schedule, or?
It was long hours, but it was night turn. He would work nights.
So he's working nights, you're working days. You're living with your mother. So how long did you live with Mom until you were able to get a place of your own?
No longer than a year.
Okay.
Yeah. And my husband was a great cook, so he worked nights, I worked days. So when I get home from work, he would have dinner on the table.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah, it's nice.
So when did you have your first child?
My daughter is adopted, so it took us about 7 years before we finally decided to adopt a baby. She was like 5 months old. We adopted her.
So where were you living at the time?
I was still living in Cardamom. We had moved from Woodville to Cardamom.
Okay. So what did you guys do for social activity? Like, I know it's hard with you working days and him working nights, but you must have gone out occasionally, or?
Probably just to the movies or something. Like, we didn't really go out a lot.
How about church? What church did you belong to?
I belong to Mount Sinai Baptist Church.
Were you involved in church activities?
Not as much as I was after I joined St. James, but no, I wasn't.
So your daughter's growing up now. She's attending school. Where did she attend school?
Divert Street School.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then after that, she graduated at the college. College was UPJ.
Oh, okay.
And then she also ended up in Beaumont, Texas, at a college there, got a master's degree.
That's wonderful. So you're not in Johnstown now.
Yeah.
So when did you leave Johnstown?
About a year ago, in April, I believe in April, about a year ago.
And where do you live now?
Fayetteville, North Carolina.
So what brings you to Johnstown today?
Visiting friends for the holiday.
Okay. Let's see what else could. What would you like to tell us about any experiences growing up in Johnstown regarding your treatment as a black woman?
My one experience growing up in Johnstown, being segregated, was I wanted to go to work at a sewing factory, but I didn't want to pack stuff. I wanted to use the machines, which I had gone to school and learned how to use the machines. But it was so prejudiced, they wouldn't let me do that, so I refused to work there.
Can you tell us of any other things that you experienced? Now you said that Johnstown was relatively segregated at that time. What do you mean by that? Were there designated black neighborhoods, or were blacks not permitted to integrate or live in other white neighborhoods? Tell us a little bit about that time.
The neighborhood that I lived in was all black, so I'm not, the only place that I would think would have been segregated would have been up on the hill, Westmont.
So in your neighborhood, were there black bakeries, black grocery stores, corner stores that you frequented?
No, they were all white.
All
The only
white.
one I remember was a black beer garden. But no, I don't remember anybody owning a black grocery store or anything.
Were you involved in any of the civil rights movements that did take place in Johnstown in the 50s and especially the 60s?
No, I wasn't.
No. Did you belong to any organizations, for instance, like the NAACP, or any organizations that worked to further black rights?
No.
Was your daughter ever involved in any civil rights activities when she became a teenager or young adult?
Not that I know of.
Did your husband, was he in the service at all?
He was only in for a year, and that was because they drafted him. So he was in the Army for a year. He was happy to get out.
Did he serve overseas?
No, he didn't.
Is there anything you'd like to tell us about your life in Johnstown or growing up in Johnstown? Anything we haven't talked about thus far?
Growing up in Johnstown as a teenager was a lot of fun. Had a lot of friends. We played a lot of games outside. We didn't sit inside and watch TV, or, well, there was no computers at the time like the kids have now. So we did a lot of stuff outside, just had fun playing.
Did you have any white friends growing up? I mean, you said you went to Johnstown High School. That was an integrated high school.
No, we didn't.
How was it in high school? Was it segregated or?
Not that I recall. I don't think it was segregated. We had fun in high school.
Did you go to the prom?
No, I didn't. I missed my prom.
How about football games or?
No, I wasn't interested in football too much either. I love basketball.
Well, did you go to basketball games?
No, but I played basketball.
Did you really?
Yes.
For the Johnstown team
No,
or?
in high school.
Oh, okay. Is there anything else you would like to tell us today? Any special memory you have?
No, my special memory was adopting my daughter.
Oh,
That's my special memory.
wonderful. Well, then thank you very much for this interview. And what we will do then is we will be putting this on we have an African American Experience page in Cambria Memory, and we are collecting these oral histories, so we will put it there.
Oh, okay. Thank
Okay, thank you.